be able to make it my own, to be able to make it happen for myself.
Okay, well, here's the thing, is you've got to do more than just create a visualization. You've got to put it in a place in your neurology that acts like a GPS, that moves you towards it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
So more of a physical thing than a mental thing.
Well, I don't make a distinction. My work has shown me that there is no, it's an arbitrary.
So you just move and transcend between one and the other without having to worry about it.
Eric, you're speaking in very vague terms, so I don't really know what the hell you're talking about.
Okay.
We need to start getting more and more specific on your language, because one of the things that happens when we try to describe internal experience is we tend to delete, distort, and generalize information. And in order to make a change, we have to uncover the missing pieces of information. We have to put them back into a specific, NLP would call it uncovering the deep structure. Okay? So,
what do you actually want? Like the first thing that comes to mind.
What is it I actually want is to be able to go forward.
To do what specifically?
Let's see now. To be able to actually go forward in business and to be successful at it.
Okay. What business and how do you define success?
As to be able to reach my goals.
What goals specifically? Do you have them?
Now that I think about it, it's always been very, very big as far as what I...
Then that's where you need to start. You see, your GPS can't guide you until you pick a destination.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You guys know the SMART system for goal creation?
Specific, measurable, attainable.
Do you know it?
Yeah, I remember going through it.
Okay.
Relevant.
All right. So, again, when we start talking about experiences, and you'll see energy workers do this all the time. They start talking about things and they get global and they delete huge chunks of information, which tells you they don't know what the hell they're talking about either, although they think they do. Okay? I can say that because I'm a Reiki master, I'm a pranic healer, I'm a DNA theta healer, I'm a Qigong guy. Okay?
But how do you know they're not just keeping it vague so that to let the patient feel?
Because when you ask what they mean, they can't answer. When you try to chunk down and get specific, they can't answer.
They just can't.
They can't. They don't. They lapse into more vagaries. They just don't. They don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Because I know you can talk in vague terms on purpose to address like a crowd, so they can fill.
But most people, when they describe their problem, do the same thing.
For their own problem, yeah.
They don't because they're deleting information. They're giving you what's the word I'm looking for? A lossy image, for lack of a better word. They've taken information from the big picture and they've deleted information from it, and then they transmit that, and then when you try to blow it back up, there's all kinds of shit missing, and the shit missing is the vagaries.
Were you looking for the word compressed?
Compressed, yeah, that was it. Okay, so, but we're not into the NLP stuff yet. I want you to understand the general rules of the mental dynamics first, then we'll apply NLP to it, and you can start seeing how things start to change rapidly. Okay, because even if you don't understand how NLP works, if you apply the rules of the mind, especially if you're doing any kind of energy work, you're going to get profound amplification to change. And you're probably doing a lot of this stuff anyway. You just didn't know there were principles that you were following. Imagination is far more important than knowledge or willpower when dealing with your own mind or the mind of others. Okay? They have a saying, when the imagination and the willpower are in conflict, the imagination wins. Pretty much all the time. Okay? Unless you are hyper-trained, like Navy SEAL level trained to just go forward, and that's mostly a trance phenomenon anyway. It's not really willpower.
I have no clue what that is.
What, willpower?
No, whatever you said.
Oh, well, I'm talking about when soldiers go through boot camp, they're basically going through brainwashing camp. They're taught to, the whole process is designed to systematically wear down their bodies and minds and make it more malleable. Mm-hmm. so that when they come out, they're trained to respond a certain way, and it's mostly pre-conscious or unconscious. Okay?
Is that how hazing works too?
Yes. Hazing is more about breaking down social barriers and creating new social relationships. That's why most gangs, when you become a member of the gang, they beat the hell out of you. You call it jumping in. That's part of the process. It's a ritual of initiation, and when you are accepted into that group, then your cultural identity tends to change as well. Okay? We identify ourselves as subgroups of a larger group. And those identities that we accept and take on change our behaviors and our beliefs. You want to make more money, move from where you live now to some place where people are making the amount of money you want to make. Within 2 to 3 years, your income will grow to match.
Well, the catch-22 is that you obviously need to have the income to
Move as well.
Yeah.
You've got to start the process somewhere.
Okay.
You want to get successful with women, hang out with a lot of guys who are successful with women. You'll become more successful by default. Even though maybe you won't, in your mind, reach the same level as the guys you're hanging out with, compared to where you were, it'll go up. Okay? Now, along the same lines, if you want to be successful with women, you need to, first of all, define what kind of women you want to hang out with. And then you need to make as many friends like that as possible. Notice that, and you don't try to sleep with them. Okay? The secret is to have an idea of what kind of woman you want to be with, make friends with those women, get comfortable with those women. Okay?
And what kind of a relationship you're really looking for.
Well, I think that's important, but that actually evolves as a man has more and more experiences with women. See, men and women from that perspective have a very different experience of relationships. Most women don't worry about where their next man's coming from, in the sense that the cultures we live in teach men, imprint in men a sense of sexual starvation, relationship starvation, where a man is just happy to get whatever comes along. Which is why the minute his income and his social status change, he trades up. Okay? It's because of the way society has programmed men that to take what they can get. And when their status changes, what they can get changes, and so they go. The only way out of that is to create more power and choice with women in general, first, having a lot of relationships and deciding and discovering what it is about women beyond the sex that inspires you, that excites you, that makes the relationship more fulfilling. So as you gain more and more freedom in sexual choice, you become more and more selective because you're not constantly starving. That's what we're trying to do with the programs I teach. I'm trying to create better men by giving them that power and choice so that they can become more selective and not take whatever the universe throws their way because that's what their self-esteem says they can have. Does that make sense? Because that's how it works. This is why you used to have so many women in the First Wives Club. You know, it's just the way it works. I guarantee the vast majority of everybody I deal with, the moment their socioeconomic status changes, so does pretty much everything else. Okay? Because it's about self-esteem, it's about identity.
Unless you already have that prior to...
Unless you got that shit handled and you know what satisfies you, what makes you happy, and you have that. And even then, it's still important for your partner to grow with you. Right? And that should be something you're sorting for anyway. But most guys don't think about that because what they're looking for is a steady diet of moist relief. It's what drives us because it's the desire that gets fed the least. Once that's no longer an issue, other things up the pyramid start to become more important. Okay? But remember, the primal drives, the lizard rules. The lizard will divert attention, energy, brain cells away from any other activity until those primal drives are met.
That's why sometimes, if like I sleep with a woman that I don't find drop dead gorgeous, or like in all aspects of the word, by the way, like not just looks. And after it's done and over with, I want to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And that's why. But like I've had it before where like with my first girlfriend, it was like I did not want to get the fuck out. Like I actually really loved her. Mm-hmm. And so like I felt no need to like get up and leave.
Yeah. Yeah. The itch is satisfied, so it's time to move on to the next herd. Yeah, because those are your primal drives. Okay, your primal drive. Remember, your genes don't go to heaven. The genes stay here. Okay, all the reptilian brain cares about is propagating the genes. Cleaning the gene pool.
So if I can make sure that I and my friends, or whoever I hang out with, actually get enough sex where like there's no feeling of scarcity there, I feel like that would free me up to do so much more. It won't like take over like such a big part of my life.
Well, that's because, again, remember, the drive that doesn't get fed grows. Okay? Now, there are people who it becomes a pathological thing where their whole self-esteem is built around their ability to get that, to get that, to get that. But the average man, first of all, the average man, that's only the fantasy. When they actually have that, it changes them. It evolves.
Yeah.
Okay? But most guys, they can't see, they don't have that reality. And so they don't get the opportunity to evolve and grow beyond it.
So once guys get, that's why a lot of pickup artists, the good ones, like get the like hell out of pickup.
Eventually, yeah.
Because like they get enough sex and whatever, like it's just like, it's not.
Then,
sex is not
and then the new pickup artists are all the single guys who are just And then if they go through that normal course of evolution, they don't have some scathing insecurities. Their whole identity is built around being a pickup artist. Again, important. It's important to have skills, but when that becomes your identity, now it's a pathological trance. Because once you stop that, remember, in America, whether you're man or woman, in this modern time, you are what you do. Your identity is built on what you do for a living. Okay? If your job is a pickup coach or a pickup artist, and your identity is built on that, and you stop being that, you stop being somebody worthwhile.
Well, then that's perfect, because my identity is built around helping people, period. Not specifically that, just happens to be my current area.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
But the point is we have to understand the building blocks of our identity. Okay? Barbara comes from a corporate background, is that? Education. Okay. So she sees herself as an educator. Right? Now she's becoming an educator in a different field. Right? But when Barbara, you ask Barbara, what do you do? She goes, I am an educator. That's an identity statement. She doesn't say, I do education. Or she doesn't say, I educate people. She says, I am an educator. Right? That's an identity statement, which means it's up the pyramid. Anything that we identify with controls us.
So are you saying that's a bad thing?
It's the way it is. However, anything that we can disidentify from, we gain power over.
So should Barbara in that case say, I educate, rather than I am an educator?
Well, think about it. When you say, give me an identity statement.
I'm a life coach.
Okay, you're a life coach. Notice how that feels. Now, what happens when you say, I do life coaching?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
What just happened?
I'm me. I have freedom of choice to do whatever the hell I want. Right now, what I'm doing is life coaching.
Exactly. Because when you identify, it becomes solidified, and it's just unchangeable. It's immutable. It's called the logical levels of belief, a hierarchy of beliefs. Okay? So when you say, I'm fat, you've basically solidified that at a level that can't be changed because it's just who you are. But if you chunk it down to where I could lose a few pounds, now you've gone from an identity level to something that's actionable. It's just something you're doing. And then it becomes changeable.
And you're purposely saying that, by the way, in the action term, and not as in like I have a few extra pounds, or.
No, I'm not saying you have a few extra pounds. That's just an example, the teaching example.
No, of course. But what I'm saying is that you purposely put it in action terms, right? Like as in I could lose a few, or I am losing.
Yeah, you chunk down on the belief there, and matter of fact, we'll talk about it a little bit, I think, in NLP prac training. Mm-hmm. Master prac goes into it a whole lot more. But there's a hierarchy of beliefs that we have, and depending on what level of belief that statement resides at, gives you a certain level of control and power over it. Right? Somebody comes at you and say, I'm fat, and I need to lose weight.
The first thing you want to change is that statement.
Mm-hmm. You need to get them to disidentify from being a fat person. So what have you been doing that's keeping you fat? Right? The minute you say, what have you been doing that's keeping those pounds on you, it changes you from an identity statement. But some people buy into the identity. Mm-hmm. So I just have fat genes. Right?
Yeah, people love that shit because it means that they're not responsible for their own life.
Exactly.
That's problematic for change.
Then you send those people home.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's what you do?
I send them home. Because nobody will change until they've suffered enough. They won't. Because a lot of times, if things are uncomfortable, they'll do something to eliminate the discomfort, and then once it drops below a certain threshold, they'll stop acting on it. Okay? But when it gets to the point where they just can't take it anymore, when they're willing to grasp the tip of a sword in order to stop from drowning, when they're that fucking fed up, desperate, that's when you get the most powerful change. So sometimes it's important for us to agitate the problem.
How do you agitate something that's not really problematic in terms of money? Remember I mentioned money before? The number one thing I'm facing is that I always have, maybe a little bit over enough to do what I need to do, but never the luxury that I want.
What's going to happen if you keep doing it that way?
I'm just always going to have X amount in my bank account.
And what are you not going to have?
I'm not going to have, I see that's how you agitate it, huh? Okay.
And what's not going to happen because of that? What are you going to miss out on?
Okay.
How's that going to suck for you?
Yeah.
Remember, in terms of motivation strategies, you only have two possible directions. You either move towards pleasure or away from pain. They are not mutually exclusive, because you can be the kind of person who actually moves towards pleasure and away from pain, or you can be someone who moves away from pain and towards pleasure.
Or?
In other words, the order and sequence that you do these is important. Some people are towards pleasure, away from pain. Some people are away from pain and towards pleasure.
And that's a static thing? That doesn't change?
There's a continuum, but it's basically those two directions. And depending on how they state their problem will tell you what direction their motivation goes. So
your woman will cheat on you versus you could have an amazing sex life? That's how it goes?
It could be that. That's one pole. Your woman will cheat on you, right? Give your woman amazing orgasms. Feel that, be able to satisfy your lover like never before.
That's towards pleasure.
Towards pleasure. Or it could be, if you don't satisfy your woman, she will cheat on you.
So that's
still a little bit more. Satisfy your woman every night. Keep her from cheating forever.
So that's away from pain.
Satisfy your woman like never before. That's pleasure.
Towards pleasure, away from pain.
Away from pain.
Yeah.
Okay? So the direction of motivation is another strategy that people have. When people talk to you, they will instinctively relate to you in their strategies, in the way that they motivate and move themselves. So if somebody's saying, I need to do X so I can Y, pay attention to, is it a towards pleasure or away from pain? Or is it away from pain and towards pleasure? When you talk to them the same way. Does that make sense?
So I need to be more attractive, or I need to be thinner so I can feel better, or I need to lose weight so...
He's also using a lot of need words.
Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of modal operators. That's a different class, but don't worry about it right now. But I'm just giving you some basic ideas to understand. A lot of what you guys are coming up with is really about motivation. It's really just about motivation. right? So we need to understand, if you're going to create marketing messages, this is very important. A lot of people in the empowerment group or the empowerment niche do not really respond very well to getting to pain-oriented messages first.
They do not.
No. It'll get their attention, but it'll kind of put them off a little bit.
So what do you do with that if you want to?
Then you start with tap into your true potential. Learn how to remove limiting blocks. Learn how to free yourself from emotional pain. What did I do there?
Move towards
Tap into your hidden potential.
Towards pleasure, right? That's
Right? And then remove limiting blocks. Free yourself from emotional pain. Blah, blah, blah. Towards pleasure, away from pain. Simple marketing message, but stop hurting now. Make the pain go away. Uncover limiting beliefs. Feel good now. Enjoy your life more. Be free. Which one had more impact? The one that had more impact, the one you kind of got your attention more, that felt right, tends to equal your motivation strategy. Right? As a rule, even though this is true, pain-oriented messages tend to work better anyway. Because the human nervous system is hardwired to move away from pain. So even if you're positively motivated, you're a positive PMA person, you will still respond to pain-oriented messages. Significantly. Okay? It's just weighted that way from an evolutionary standpoint. But from a New Age white light perspective, we like the la, you know, we like la 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 la. Life is good. I'm in my space. I'm in my beingness. Right? Okay. Once an idea has been accepted by the inner mind, it remains there until it is replaced by another idea. Okay, this kind of goes hand in glove with our identity statements. Once you accept something as an identity or as a belief, it will remain until you come in and you put something else there. Which is why I never just take stuff and throw it away. I always change it. So there's something in its place. Okay? On the spinning exercise we just did with you, I could have just as easily had you take it out and throw it away.
Yeah, but then what's going to fill in the gap?
Nature abhors a vacuum. So I took the exact same thing that fits in that space, I tweaked the code a little bit and put it back in, which matched your coding system perfectly, and all of a sudden it generalizes, the new code takes over, life is better. Okay? It's the same concept. Whenever we put something in, or whenever we take something out, we need to put something in its place. Okay? This is important. This one is a cross-contextual influence tool. You need to understand it. Every suggestion that is accepted and acted upon increases the likelihood of the next suggestion being accepted and acted upon. Okay?
Any suggestion accepted and acted upon?
Mm-hmm.
Increases
The likelihood of the next suggestion being accepted.
Is that how the escalation ladder works? Like the yes, 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 bigger
Mm-hmm.
yeses?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay? There's also a corollary to that. Every time a suggestion is rejected, it increases the likelihood that the next suggestion will be rejected. Which is something the hypnotists don't tell you. Because most of them don't realize it. Most of them don't even know about these laws. I got these from Jerry Kine, who was brilliant. This is one for you, Barbara, is especially important. Emotionally induced symptoms tend to cause organic change. If they persist long enough. 70% of all ailments are functional in nature, not organic. 70% of all ailments are functional in nature, but they're not organic.
Of all what? Sorry.
Ailments.
Elements. Okay.
Ailments. A-I-L-M-E-N-T-S.
Oh, ailments. Ailments. Okay.
An extension of rule number 1. What the mind expects to happen tends to be realized.
What is the one about the emotional organic one?
Emotionally induced symptoms tend to cause organic change if they persist long enough.
Sorry, meaning manifested?
Yeah, they'll manifest as tumors, ulcers, lesions, limbs stop working, pretty much anything. This is what I do clinically. Most of the time, when someone's in my chair for a physiological problem, it's repressed emotion that needs to be resolved. Okay? And I have to go in there with hypnotic bazookas and dynamite and shovel shit. I have to let them decompress it. I have to let them resolve it however they need to. This is one of the secrets. This is in Chinese medicine, we could call these internal pathogens. Chinese medicine pays full credit to the power of repressed emotion. They just don't really have a very solid way of going directly in and removing it except by acupuncture and meridian work. Okay, hypnotists and derivatives of hypnosis, we have that ability. So it's very powerful. When dealing with the subconscious mind and its functions, the greater the conscious effort, the less the unconscious response. In other words, you try too hard, you shut off your unconscious access, and your conscious mind tries to run the show. Okay?
Say that one more time.
When dealing with the subconscious mind and its functions, the greater the conscious effort, the less the subconscious responds. This is where those of you who start using hypnosis clinically or doing any kind of therapeutic work, you will see this. People will try to do what you're telling them to do, and they will choke because they're trying to do it consciously instead of allowing the unconscious mind to work.
Is that why trying harder often is a fucking bad strategy?
Yeah.
Like, try harder.
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, try to fall asleep. Have you ever tried to fall asleep?
I've tried. Right? So, it's important. When dealing with the unconscious mind, make things easy. Take it easy. Less is more. Develop positive mental expectancy that your problem can and will be solved. Okay? Remember, it all goes back to what the mind expects to happen tends to be realized. Okay? It's a meta rule. When you can start to engineer expectation, then you've gotten a significant advantage over any other modality.
What do you want?
Engineer expectation.
Can you give an example of doing that?
Yeah, one of the ways that you can engineer expectation is by how you set up your waiting room. Like, some people like to put nice pretty pictures on their walls and plants and make it all comfortable. One of my mentors, all he does is all his walls are filled with testimonials. On his book is a little scrapbook, nothing but testimonials of satisfied customers and patients and things like that.
Oh, that helps. Also, raising your prices, right?
Raising your prices is a little bit of a different... you can also raise expectation by being constantly booked. Right? One of the things a lot of people do who aren't busy is if somebody will call and they'll say, well, the closest appointment I have is in 2 weeks. How's that work for you? And they're like, oh my God, he's really busy. He must be good, right? When restaurants are opening up, many of them will pay people to come in and sit in the freaking restaurant and look full. Okay? Faith healers. First couple people that come up are paid. They're shills. And then everybody else that comes up gets healed. Okay? The law of expectation. When you can engineer expectation, the mind does the rest. Okay? Not putting an ethical constraint on it. It's just the way we work. You have to work with that within your own sense of personal ethics. But remember, your job, when people come to you, is to help them get the change. Period.